Great. So we'll quickly go through the show and tell, which is really a quick update and introduction, and then we'll step into the FutureGov workshop. Okay, so this is sprint number 4, is our 4th sprint, and as you know, we're partnering as Camden, Middlesbrough, and Buckinghamshire, and we can now announce our delivery partner FutureGov that we're very excited to be joining us today for our first workshop together with them. As always, we've got all our channels set up for people to contact us and reach out. We've got an email address, we've got a Twitter account, a Medium page where we post sprint notes from. We put all these meetings on our YouTube channel. We've got a LinkedIn group, and we've got a project website through the MHCLG. So our project has 2 key outputs, and it's to make our digital playbook, which is currently being made. We've actually got it in a spreadsheet now. We've been focusing on getting the content together rather than looking at the end product. And our next kind of phase is to work with FutureGov, our delivery partner, and we're going to go out to other boroughs to get more input into that playbook. A second part of our project is the digital site notice, and so that's creating a digital twin that would go online, as well as making the physical site notice itself better. So it's about making public consultation more transparent and making it easier to collect and consider data. So in terms of what we've learned and how we've adapted through digital engagement, so as COVID's hit, we've changed our ways of working. We've had to look at new ways of consulting. And one example is what we've done at Camden with our development management forum, which typically during the pre-application process for major schemes, we had a live event in person, usually in community halls, and those would be in person in Q&A sessions. So we had to switch that to a digital function, and so we've carried out that. So that's one example of what we've done and how we've tried to adapt. We're looking at joining up all our various strands of engagement. So we obviously engage at various stages of the process, from plan making through the pre-application process, when we're creating area frameworks and site allocations. And obviously once the planning submission is submitted, we also consult on that. So it's about linking all those together and making a place profile. And what we've noticed when we've had a good hard look at how we engage in all the various steps of the process is how much meaningful engagement are we doing and how are we collecting data. And we find that we're not always empowering our residents enough. So that's one of our goals, is to make the planning process and the engagement part of it more about empowering than just informing and consulting. Last week we had the Royal Borough of Kingston and Chelsea come along, and they gave a really good talk on Built ID, on some of the work they've been doing. So as part of their local plan review, they, in response to COVID, had to find a way to consult and still get engagement with the community. And so they actually found that they got a lot more responses than they normally would. So they, for example, they normally get about 60 respondents in their plan making process, and this time they got over 1,000. So this process was really engaging for them, and so it allowed them to collect data in various ways, so they could use tick box exercise and have things that were map based as well. So we're continuing to work on our user stories, and this is where we want people to come in and help us. So as I said, we've got a questionnaire that Nora's developed. So we're going to be sending that round to as many local boroughs as we can, and as I said, we've got our spreadsheet as well. Our spreadsheet is going to set out all the tools that we've been using at Camden throughout the borough, not just in planning. And we want other local authorities to let us know about their user stories, about how they've responded since COVID, how they've been consulting digitally. And our site notice, so we've been doing some work in the background on this. So we've been looking at statements of community involvement, so SCIs, and we've been looking at what templates there are. And this is a template from the DMP, so the Development Management Order, Procedure Order. And there's a lot of information that it kind of sets out. And we've also started looking at other boroughs and what kind of standard approaches they take to site notices. For example, not all boroughs put the case officer's name on the site notice. So I think as part of this project, we're essentially going to be looking at making a new template, a new model for the United Kingdom, of how to create a site notice. So we're really hoping to make a new prototype that's going to change planning. And in terms of our outputs as well, so it's about creating a digital twin of a site notice. So how is that interacted with online? But also we'll be looking at physically changing what the site notice looks like when we see it in person. Can it be more eye-catching? But fundamentally, how do people interact with these site notices? So at the moment in Camden, for example, we have QR codes, but once you scan that code, you kind of go to a web page full of PDFs. It's not very user-friendly or interactive. So we're trying to come up with a way that's a bit more of a richer digital environment, so people can interact with the application more easily once they get step into that digital world. So next steps, so hopefully this week or next, we'll be sending out a questionnaire from our digital planning domain, and we'll also be sending out our spreadsheet, which people can drop in the different tools they're using. And we're going to start working with our delivery partner, FutureGov, to basically use a test and build the next stage of our project. So that's all. So unless people have any questions, I just want to quickly run through the update and give as much time as I can to FutureGov today, because that's where we're going to get real value out of today's session, I think. But please let me know if you have any questions before we stop the recording.